Hello, my name is Putkonen. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm talking about Brahman remains indivisible, consciousness remains indivisible. You'll see throughout Advaita Vedanta and non-duality the reference that Brahman is indivisible and remains indivisible. And that is, there is never a part or piece. That is a fiction. I know in so many spiritual paths and traditions, people have this concept of, well, I am a part of God. I am a part of the totality. I am not the totality. I'm not God. There's this separation. And that's, and for non-duality and Advaita Vedanta, that's an illusory separation. Brahman remains indivisible. You are the totality. You couldn't be otherwise. And so you're never a part. To say I am a part is inherently a way to create a division. I am this piece and I am not the rest. You're just further creating and reinforcing the idea of me. I am this part, I am not the rest. And that does not really exist. Brahman alone exists, and there is no other. And so there's just Brahman, indivisible. There's other words, kind of synonyms, they can be swapped out because, when you talk about Brahman, they'll also talk about absolute reality or consciousness. And so consciousness remains indivisible. And people sometimes kind of get caught up on this because they identify with just conscious awareness, one part of it, and go, oh, I'm this part. Well, no, you're not. Because when you talk about consciousness, even in psychology, when they talk about the body-mind consciousness, they talk about there's consciousness and there's the conscious and subconscious. But this is terms thrown out to talk about aspects of consciousness. They aren't two separate things. It's not like there's a conscious mind and a subconscious mind and there's two different minds. That's not the case. There's just consciousness. And one aspect is conscious and another aspect is subconscious. But the totality of it is consciousness, which is indivisible. It's not really divided. The entirety of consciousness includes that which is conscious and subconscious and superconscious and whatever else. And so there's no real division. Or you can think about it in a dream. In a dream, you may have conscious awareness of a dream body mind and say, this is me, and say, I'm a part of the dream, which is incorrect. The totality, the entirety of the dream is consciousness. Nothing in the dream is other than consciousness. And so, well, on a conscious level, there's a dream character being played. You could say on a subconscious level, all the other characters are being played by the same consciousness. It's all being played by one consciousness, indivisible. And as I've said, if you dream that you're being chased down an alley by someone, in truth, you are chasing yourself. There's no one else there. We need to kind of look at this dividing mechanism because I know there's a certain amount of resistance. I know some people have this feeling of, well, I can't be the totality. I can't be omnipresent. I'm just a part. And so there's a lot of focus on I'm just a part of divinity. But that's not true. Divinity is indivisible. You are the totality of it. There's no way around it. And when it comes to there not being a part, this means there is no separate me in terms of, well, I am just these lives and these are all my past lives. This is my part. And everything else is not me. Well, that too is an illusion because Brahman remains indivisible. And having a me in a chain of past lives and saying just this is me, this is my part, and everything else is not me, is just another illusory division that doesn't exist. You are still identifying with a part in some way. And that is the fundamental basis of a me. I am this, I am not that. That is the me, is I am this, that is other. Those two arise together. And so whenever there's this me and other, even if you conceptually go, yes, there's God and that is all, or Brahman that is all, as long as you believe in me and other, you will always grab hold of this me is a part of God. This me is a part of Brahman. And that is a fiction. There is no me other division. There is no part. You were never a part. Tattvamasi, you are that. There's Brahman alone and no other. Brahman remains indivisible, unable to be divided, ever whole. It is never separated. There's never a separation. Brahman never becomes two. It never divides itself in some way and becomes a part. And so kind of look at your own beliefs, your own concepts. Where are you holding on to this idea of I'm a part? Where do you identify as a part? I'm a part of the world. I'm a part of the human race. I'm a part of divinity. I'm a part of Brahman. How, in what ways are you identifying with I'm a piece? I'm not the whole. Because I sometimes will post videos or comments online, and it's nothing I've never said before. I said, well, you are the totality. There's just Brahman. And I often get comments, people coming back, sometimes quite vigorously, going, no, I'm just a part. We're a traveler, and the destination is Brahman, or in some way, still creating the part. I'm just a part. Because we are so very attached to being just a part. And so, delve into this, question this, doubt this, observe this. Where are you grabbing onto the I'm a part? And really, you're just trying to recognize where you're holding on to the partness. Because as long as you believe you're a me, as long as you believe you're a part, it is impossible to really see past that. The me never expands to become Brahman. The wave never becomes the ocean. That's not the way it works. And so, a me trying to do anything about this is also just a part, trying to do something about it, being a part, trying to become the whole. And so it gets into binds, basically. You get into this double bind where as long as you believe you are a part and you need to do something about getting rid of this, you're still stuck. It's a matter of direct experience, realization. It's a shattering of the me. That's what enlightenment is. And there's nothing you can do to cause this. You can create more conducive environments for it. But until that realization happens, it's really not going to be lived and experienced and seen directly. But it is possible to shake up the structure, so to speak. It is possible to recognize, oh, this is where I'm identifying as a part. And on a certain amount of faith, perhaps, going, well, especially if you really think that non-duality or Advaita Vedanta is the truth, on that faith, when you recognize I'm identifying as a part, that's incorrect. That's a misunderstanding. That's illusion. And give up. Just surrender that identification. I'm not that. I mean, it's impossible, I think, to see that you're not a part from the standpoint and belief that you're a part. It is too big of a leap for a part, a piece, a little me to go, I'm the totality. How does that work? It's too big of a leap. But if you recognize this is where I'm identifying as a part, just cease identifying as that. Just give it up as best as you're able. Not that you have to try to hammer away or use a lot of effort. Just as best as you're able. It's like, no, I really believe in non-duality and Advaita, and so this identification is contrary. And so rectify that belief that you're a part with the belief in non-duality. You're trying to hold two separate concepts that are contrary in the mind. And what you need to do is you need to bring both of them forward in consciousness and conscious awareness to rectify. One of them has to go. Either you have to go, well, non-duality or Advaita must not be right. Or you have to say, my identification as a part isn't right. It's one or the other. And so, instead of not addressing the duplicity, what I'm suggesting is looking at, observing the duplicity and rectify it in terms of, if you see them both, one of them has to go. There's no way to really hold both. They're contrary. And in that way, it may weaken the identification with a part. That's just one of the ways to help the surrender of, or letting go of the identification with a part. But I mean, if you've done any other kind of spiritual practices or experiments where you've let go identification with different things like, say, gender or nationality or whatever, if you've gotten used to the feeling of letting go, you could use that feeling of letting go to let go of identification as a part. I'm not a part. I suppose you could also kind of dive into the mechanisms of the mind. Because the mind's primary function is to divide. That's what it does all day. You look around, it divides. It separates. That's what it does. It creates imaginary divisions. I don't know how many times I've had conversations where we talk about, I've talked with people about the wave and ocean analogy. And I've pointed out that waves do not really exist. in that they're a separate thing, because what we call a wave is really a crest. We have the crest and we have imaginary cutoff line at the valleys and we go, this is a wave. But there's no real dividing line. There's just ocean. There's just ocean. Waves are a convention of speech, a imagined concept to talk about an aspect of the ocean. But the ocean in no way is divided. The waves are not separate. And I've had these conversations with people, and they're so stuck with the divided way the mind works. They so are took in and believe the divisive nature of the mind that they'll argue the point and they go, no, waves really do exist. Waves are separate from the ocean. I'm like, how are waves separate from the ocean? It's like they can't see that there isn't a separation. It's just a swell. It's a crest. And you've imagined a dividing line. And you go, this is a wave. And this crest and and dividing line is different than this other crest and dividing line. And so these are two waves. And then that's just further compounds the division. And people, we really buy into the divisions we create. If you delve into this, you may see that what you would, your identity is just another way of segmentation. It's just another way of fictitiously creating a border, a line of demarcation in the mind, and say, this is me, the rest is not me. So, it may help to understand the divisive nature of the mind and how divisions are imagined. You imagine there's a separate wave when there is no such thing as a separate wave. There's just ocean. We talk about conscious and subconscious, but those really aren't two different things. It's just one totality of consciousness. But if you get really hung up on the terms and the differences, it may really seem like conscious and subconscious are two different things, and there's two things, not one. So if you see the divisive mechanisms of the mind and the way it creates illusory separations, it may loosen it up. If you pull up your duplicity and your two concepts, if you really believe in, you're like, yeah, I really feel that non-duality or Advaita Vedanta is true, well, pull up the I'm a part belief and the belief in Brahman alone exists and that's indivisible, and rectify the two. You have to look at it and go, these two are contrary. One's got to go. So how strong is your belief and faith in non-duality over your belief and faith in being a part? And that's not the only two ways. There probably are other ways to delve into this, but there is, I guess, a heavy attachment, identification with a part, a piece, or otherwise compartmentalized, me and other. And ultimately, and what I mean by ultimately, I don't mean at some other stage everything becomes one. No, everything has always been non-separate. Right now, Brahman alone exists. Brahman remains indivisible. Right now. All this, Brahman, indivisible. And so it's something to delve into, something to consider. But if you got any questions, comments, please post below. But until next time, thank you much.